You know, our next guest, I'd like to welcome up here, former Congressman Mark Neumann, who is also running for the U.S. Senate for the state of Wisconsin to take Herb Kohl's seat. He's running to, yeah, that's right. Herb's finally decided he's had enough. And Mark's plan is to go to D.C., hook up with Ron Johnson, and start kicking behind and taking names. So, Mark, if you'd come up and share with us, thank you for being with us, sir.
Let's give Brian a big hand. He's doing a great job, and the whole Republican Party is doing fine. Nice job, guys. Nice job. You know, winning that Senate seat next fall is going to be important, and getting the 51st senator from the state of Wisconsin, conservative Republican senator from the state of Wisconsin is very, very important. And I can hardly wait. It gets me excited just to hear you say that. What did you say? Kick butt and take names? I can hardly wait to get out there and do it. But you know, today it's about the recall of Scott Walker. So I thought, instead of focusing on that, I'd get rid of this coat that makes me look like I'm running for the Senate. I put this shirt on that makes it look like we're working for Scott Walker.
And what a lovely shirt it is.
You know, I'm so down proud of Scott Walker, Rebecca Clayfish, and the job they're doing. What do you think? Well, he's down in La Crosse. What do you say we give him a round loud enough for him to hear all the way to La Crosse? Scott Walker. Senator Kapangi and Terry, why don't you guys stand up too? Thank you so much for what you did. Stand on the ground with those guys. Great job. Now the next thing I'd like to do, you guys, to win this election, and by the way, I think they are going to get their signatures, and I think we're going to kick some serious tail in the next election. That's what I think is going to happen. What do you think? Could we have all the rest of the elected officials in this room stand up so we can say thank you to you as well? You guys, we need to pull together on this. All our elected officials stand up. Go ahead. Thank you. Now one more thing. If you are running for office in 2012 or later this year, if there's an election I'm not aware of, but if you are running for office, would you stand up so we know who you are so we can pull together with you as well? Candidates for office, stand up. Good job, guys. I was waiting to see if there were any surprises that somebody was going to make an official here that we didn't know about before today. Hey, we got to pull together, folks, and it's not just about one part of this, it's a whole team pulling together. We're in this room because we believe in where we need to take our state, where we need to take our country. I brought Terry a check with me today that I've already handed to him because I believe if I'm going to ask all of you to do something, I probably ought to do it myself first. I brought him a check. I want you guys to do the same thing if you possibly can. And I just reiterate, Brian, if you're, what did you say, under 40? You put your time and effort in, over 40, give them checks. Everybody give them a check, and everybody put your time and effort in, but that's the general idea. Terry, we're with you in that recall election, and like I say, I think they may get their signatures, and then we're going to kick some serious tail in that election. So, next thing I'd like to do is introduce the most important person in my life. Some of you know this story, and some of you don't. I moved to East Troy, Wisconsin when I was in 4th grade, believe it or not, and I sat down in a Sunday school class, and across the table from me was this very beautiful young lady. I can still tell you what she wore to 6th grade when we did our Christmas stuff at church. I can tell you what she wore to confirmation when she, I know it's a sad story. It's a true story. It's not a sad story, it's a wonderful story, folks. We dated all through high school except for the year she gave me off for bad behavior that we don't talk about in front of groups. We were married, we've been married 38 years now. We've got 3 adult children, all married, and 4 beautiful grandchildren, 5 and under. My beautiful wife, Sue. I was thinking about what to say when I got in front of the group with a small amount of time, and I can tell you how we're going to balance the budget and Obamacare, a whole bunch of different things we could talk about. But I guess what really hit home is when you start thinking about Scott Walker and what's happened here in the state of Wisconsin, how he's brought Wisconsin to be the center of the future of the United States of America, which is what we've all done here in this state, led by Scott. I couldn't help but think about how we first got into politics in the first place. And I just want to tell you how Sue and I first left the private sector and got involved, because I think it's very meaningful to this particular setting here today. We were, like many people in America, not involved in politics in any way, shape, or form. I was one of those small business owners that Scott's talking about, creating jobs in the private sector. And we struggled in business, but our businesses were going good. We were providing about 250 jobs in the private sector that we'd started a business in the basement of our house and built it up, and things were going good. Family was great. We were active in church. Folks, we were living the American dream. And when you think about the American dream, isn't that what it's about? Faith, family, providing job opportunities, the opportunity to succeed, and the opportunity to fail. Folks, that's what the American dream is about. We were living it. Well, I was also teaching at the time, and in my math classroom, we had been using the examples of the debt and the deficit in Social Security, so I was acutely aware of what was happening in our country in terms of the debt being driven up and the deficits being up, and to a point where it was really threatening the future of America. And to me, it wasn't just about those numbers, it was threatening our way of life and our opportunity to live the American dream. Something happened that summer that really changed our lives permanently. I wanted to go up north fishing on a vacation, but Sue said, you know, Mark, we've never been out to Washington, D.C. Our kids are old enough now to understand it. Let's take a trip to Washington and see what this nation's capital really looks like. How many have been to Washington? Look around this room, folks. It's just amazing. Well, we got out there and it totally changed our lives. We went to the Washington, and then we went over to the Lincoln Memorial. How many of you remember when you walk up the steps to the Lincoln Memorial? It's like Abe Lincoln is looking down on you, you know, and it's like he's saying to you almost, what are you doing with the country? What's going on in this country today? Your job is to pass it on to the next generation in better shape than you found it. How are you doing? And we went from the Lincoln Memorial out to Arlington National Cemetery. How many have been to Arlington? Do you remember when you walked through Arlington National Cemetery and there's all those white headstones there? And you get this strong, you know, I've told this story 1,000 times and I still get goosebumps every time I think about it. Folks, when you look at those headstones and you get a feeling and an understanding of what was necessary to give us this great nation, the United States of America, and you realize what the price was paid by so many to give us the privilege of living in this great nation that we live in today. And then you look around the country and you start asking yourselves, what's going on? And in America back then, we had debts and deficits, and I went into Congress, served 4 years, we got the budget balance, all that stuff happened. But fast forward to today. What's happened in Wisconsin today is that Scott Walker and Rebecca Clayfish and the team of people that are there has put Wisconsin right at the center of whether or not we as a generation are going to fulfill our responsibility to all those white headstones that I saw at Arlington Cemetery and all the others around the country who paid that sacrifice. Folks, the epicenter of the entire thing is right here in Wisconsin right now. And people are watching us to see what we're going to do. Are we going to more government and more handouts and more people on the dole? Or are we going to return to a nation that is about people taking personal responsibility of their own lives and the lives of their families and the lives of their lives? It's happening, folks, and it's happening right here. I put this shirt on today because I want to make it clear. That Senate seat, it is very important. But before we get to that Senate seat, we need to make sure that Scott Walker remains the governor of the state of Wisconsin. I will tell you, and I won't say much about the Senate, but I will tell you this. I can hardly wait to get out there and work with Ron Johnson. He's doing a phenomenal job. And together we are going to get the budget balanced, and we're going to can Obamacare, repeal Obamacare, get rid of it. Somehow they don't understand that when they put more rules and regulations and things like Obamacare into place, that the entrepreneurs and small business owners like myself are not going to hire more people. We've got to get rid of Obamacare to allow our employers to start employing more people in this great country that we live in. All right, I'm not supposed to be up here for too long, so I want to tell you one other little story that I think is very, very significant. It just kind of says it all in terms of what the Senate race is about and a lot of what's going on here in the state of Wisconsin. My oldest son was explaining to my grandkids what it meant to run for office because they're getting old enough now that they can understand. I got a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 1-year-old, and he had this conversation in his house. He said things like, you know, this happened today, by the way. He said, Grandpa's going to leave us sometimes when he would otherwise be playing ball with us in the basement of his house, and he's going to go to places like Eau Claire to start working on delivering a message how we're going to turn our country around. He explained all this stuff to our kids, to my grandkids, at his own home. And then he came over to our house and they were visiting, and I was sitting on the steps as they were about to leave, and Andy says to my 3-year-old grandson, Charlie, he says, Charlie, tell Grandpa why he's running for office. 3-year-old grandson looks up at me with big blue eyes and he says, Grandpa, tell him to quit spending our money. I mean, if a 3-year-old gets it, folks, I think we're there. Folks, we've got a big job ahead of us. We live in the greatest nation in the world. This country is worth fighting for. It's worth our effort. It's worth our financial support. It's worth doing what's necessary to make sure that we keep America going in the right direction so that we can turn this nation over to our children and our grandchildren in better shape than we found it. So let's get Scott Walker reelected. Prediction, they're going to get their signatures. We are going to kick some serious tail in the re-election because we're all busting our tails to do it. Thank you, and God bless you all.
Give another round for Congressman Neumann.